Hello and welcome to the Dad and Buried podcast. My name is Mike, aka Dad and Buried. Just quick public service announcement. I am 40,000 followers away from 200,000. I really wanted to make it by my birthday coming up in September. My 31st birthday. I look great. Thank you for noticing. I'm joined today, once again, 2 weeks in a row, by my lovely wife, Heather, aka Mom and Buried. Would you like
Hello.
to say hello?
Hello.
Fun fact, this is actually our second attempt at recording this episode because something went wrong yesterday. So now we are re-recording because we care about you people and your entertainment, especially during the COVID-19 quarantine. Although, is it still a quarantine? I don't think it's so much a quarantine anymore.
No, it's not, I guess, a quarantine officially, although in a lot of places it probably should be. But, I don't know. It's still pretty, life is not as usual, at least in New York, right? So.
Well, you were able to leave the house yesterday. You took the kids to the beach,
Yes.
which was great for a variety of reasons. One, I was left home alone to do some work in peace and quiet, which is very rare these days since the kids and you are home and just a lot of people all at once. And you were able to kind of continue your tradition of mom camp, which is trying to make summer exciting and memorable, even though these are obviously very different circumstances than usual.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there could be a podcast just on that. But like Mom Camp, I've actually enjoyed.
We did a podcast.
I wasn't in it, so whatevs. But Mom Camp is something I have kind of run, last couple of years while my kids are small, and I kind of enjoy it. And I actually do things where we make plans, but we go to museums, we go to like matinees, we do all these cool things that, here in New York and so many of you can't do. So I think a lot of parents are going insane, and it's hard to convince yourself, let alone your kids, to leave the house. So, I mean, now I did it 2 days in a row, so I can just like day drink for a day or two. I think that seems fair.
Is that the plan? You're going to day drink for the next couple of days?
Yeah, you got your time, I get mine. I'm going to lock myself in the bedroom and day drink.
And I got to hang out with the kids?
Yeah, good luck.
You know what? Contrary to popular opinion, I love my children. I don't love them 24/7, 365 because I'm a normal human being. And it's difficult, especially nowadays when, we're all stuck inside, as I mentioned before. And normally, in about a month, we'd be sending our kids back to school where they would be away from us for a good chunk of days, a good chunk of the day, which is frankly wonderful for us and for them. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and separation from your kids really makes spending time with your kids more tolerable. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about today. Back to school in the time of COVID. It's not an easy topic. It's a little bit more serious than what Pete and I usually tackle, although we have tried to mix it up. And Mom and Buried is here, and she struggles with the funnies a little bit, right? Am I right?
No, you're absolutely wrong. I'm funnier than you and more likable, so there's that. But I can also take on the serious matters because I'm multidimensional. I bring a lot to the table. Yes,
I'm doing the hourglass pantomime.
Yes, for those who are listening, weirdo.
Your dimensions are like Barbie, and this is why you topple over all the time.
This is very bizarre, but yes, go follow me on Instagram and check out my dimensions, ladies and gentlemen.
Her name on Instagram is Mom and Buried because she took my Instagram last name, but did not take my real life last name, much to my father's chagrin.
Oh, really? Well, I hope you got over it by now. Hey, I was born with my own last name. I kind of like it. Yours is like annoying to spell, so I'm like good with it.
It is annoying. It's long, right? So when I have like a username or something, or when I have to spell it for like a customer service person on the phone, it really takes a long time.
I don't have time for that. And like career-wise, I was always, already on my way. So, yes. But Mom and Buried, sure, I'll take because I was that for years, behind the scenes on Dad and Buried, like all of your online places, and you would talk about me. And then finally, almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I came out from behind the shadows and, shine brighter than you at times. But I think overall, we've got a good thing going.
Do you?
Fine.
You mean marriage-wise or like podcast-wise?
Depends on the day.
I do want to reassure.
Like, just on the online community, but it is fun, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
I do want to reassure people and let them know that Pete does still exist. He's had some scheduling issues the past couple of weeks.
I thought it was in question if Pete existed in the first place.
Well, he doesn't have an online footprint or a social media footprint, so maybe he doesn't. Or maybe he's just so well adjusted he does not need social media's validation to prove his worthfulness as a human being. Unlike me, which is why I'm trying to get to 200K by my birthday when I turn 31.
That seems like an ambitious goal. 40K people to like you in like 1 month. I've met you. Well, we'll see. Seems lofty.
Well, I know that if I say something about Trump, I can lose 40K people in about a month.
About seconds, you probably lost 10K right there.
I might have. So no, this isn't going to be a political podcast. This episode, that's saving it for the 500th All Politics podcast. When we get there, we're inching closer by the week. But we are going to talk about going back to school in the time of COVID, the challenges that parents face, kids face, teachers face, everybody faces, because it's sort of a nightmare scenario, which makes sense because it's a global pandemic and those things, they're not fun. But we're going to try to make it fun because that's what we do.
We will try our best. I might collapse into hysterical tears because this has got me so stressed out. So that could be like kind of fun. Someone just totally losing it.
If you're into women crying, this is the episode for you. Maybe. It hasn't happened yet. You didn't cry yesterday when we first did it. So
I kept it together. But it's been stressful. And I think like a lot of parents can relate. I mean, every day it's a whole different story for many people, or they're already at the going back, and so there's the stress of the not knowing and discovering and all the changes, but it's freaking stressful, and it's hard decision making for those who are in the position to decide between remote and online, partial school, or I guess in some places full-time school.
Do you want me to sing Buddy Holly's Every Day? Which I learned, I think the first time I encountered that was in the film Stand By Me, which I saw in the theater with my mom.
Are you sure it wasn't the acclaimed Broadway musical Buddy that I worked on?
I also saw Rain Man in the theater with my mom. If you want me to sing the Aiko Aiko Wane song. Chakamafina na na ne, chakamafina ne, talk about hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now,
Aiko Aiko Wane. You're off topic. And I would love to like throw in some real normal stuff, but this ain't normal. So,
This is what I do. This is what brings the people back.
I'm well aware. Thank you for the reminder.
This is what brings the people back. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and you're going to hear the name of the podcast, which has not been changed to Buried with Children, although we're thinking about it. Sorry, Pete.
I like that
you
one.
Like that, Buried with Children. Oh, that was it.
I mean, I have been, after the last one and the cameo, a bit, and as you know, high demand. You hear about it like constantly, how lovable I am.
I did post a poll asking people if they wanted All Mom and Buried all the time and no more Pete. I didn't ask it quite that way, but people clearly are clamoring for a little bit more Mom and Buried on the airwaves, so we'll see what we can do. And, maybe when Pete comes back, he won't come back at all. We'll say, you know what, screw you.
No, I love Pete, and you guys have a good, kind of different repertoire, but, it's fun. I've heard some of those same things, and so I love that people are loving on me, and it's kind of fun to, like, talk to you from a separate room and through a screen, and, It's good. It's a good vibe. So, all right, let's do this.
All right, we'll be back in a minute to talk about going back to school or not in the time of COVID. Every day, it's getting closer, going faster than
I take it all back. Pete, come home.
People love when I sing on the podcast. That's one thing that's everybody knows. I've actually never asked that poll.
I've never said that because I've not heard that in real life, real time.
I'm going to ask. I'm going to poll after we're done recording if people love to hear my dulcet tones. Anyway, this week, I don't know how much more singing we're going to get.
Stop it. The hammer just told you to stop.
I don't know how much more singing we're going to get. We're going to be talking about back to school and the time of COVID. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody for listening. Whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or any of the other myriad places you can hear us, wherever you listen to your podcast. We would love it if you gave us a rating and or a review on Apple. You can just click the star button. You don't need to write a paragraph. We appreciate hearing from you guys. You can check us out on YouTube. Where you can comment on individual episodes, and you can throw us a little bit of money on Patreon or even on Anchor if you want. I'm going to run really quickly through the people that are doing that. So Ryan Miller and MS Babayan, they contribute on Anchor. And on Patreon is Check Your Kids at the Door, Chris Coleman, M. Daniel, Mallory McKenzie, Tina Davis, and Miriam. We got a new guy, Rob Gilberry. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Rob, please let me know if I do. Thank you for joining us. Lindsay Woodruff, Andrea Sandoval, Barbara Geiger, Bill D'Amica, Dana Bosday, Jacques Govar, Morning Glow, Cotton Farmer AZ, Wes Clark, Jennifer Wynn, Julie McCarthy, Paula Polsky, Mary Williams, and Julie Burton, also known as KSU Julie on Instagram. Thanks, everybody, one and all, for contributing at all, whether with your words or your wallet. Remember, I said that once to Pete, and he was really impressed at that turn of phrase, because I'm a writer at heart, not just of memes, people.
No, you are. You're a very good writer. If people haven't checked that out, you are.
Thanks,
and
honey.
fairly funny, but thanks for the love to everyone. We love it.
Please, I'm the funniest person you've ever met. You've said this to me multiple times over the course of our marriage.
When was the last time you can date?
Look, I'm not gonna, I don't have it written down. All right.
Okay, let's go. Let's talk about the serious stuff.
Well, that's funny because Katie Carl 79 said, I don't want to talk about it. I want to hear you and Pete talk about random stuff. Now, look, I'm going to do my best to throw some more random stuff in here. And I'm not even going to try. It just happens. It's just how my mind works. But right now, this is on everyone's minds, right? So Mom and Barry and I listened to our school's town hall a couple of days ago where our wonderful principal answered a lot of questions. And most of her answers were, this is how it's going to be unless or if. It was very hypothetical. We don't envy the school administrators and the teachers who are preparing for all manner of different scenarios because nobody really knows for sure. And the mandate's not going to come down from the governor for another week or two, I think. Is that right here in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of school systems, so that's meaning all the teachers and all the principals in it, are still at this phase of preparing for literally every scenario. And they don't know which one it's going to be. And so it's hard to get the logistics down. And, because it could be last minute, like, oh, we're all remote. But they don't know, they can't prepare. And just so many kudos to them for going through all these things. And it must really suck to be in their position of being like, I want to give you information. I want to help, but I don't know.
And right now, the plan is a hybrid situation where they'll be split up, I think, alphabetically into a couple of different cohorts, as they're referring to them. And we're supposed to, within like 10 days or so, we have to decide whether we're going to do the hybrid or whether we're going to opt out of in-person completely and just do virtual. And the thing is, if you decide to only do virtual, you're stuck in it for 2 months and you cannot change, or vice versa. If you're nervous about the situation and don't know if you want to do it for the whole year, or even like you can't go for a week and then pull back, you're stuck for 2 months, whatever you choose, before you can reconsider.
Well, and I understand logistically, especially in a school system like New York, that once they build these classes or these pods or whatever they're calling them, or the remote classrooms, it's hard to change them. But, no one's going to see what it's actually like till you get there. And one, it's not even guaranteed that we'll know what the formula is before you're supposed to decide if you want remote. And two, if you go and you're like, wow, I'm not actually comfortable with the way this is set up. It's not as, in depth. It's, I don't feel comfortable with the way it is. You can't say, I'm out, and that's really weird.
Well, that would put it actually, as you said, that would like the uncertainty if you can opt in and out willy-nilly. The uncertainty for administrators and teachers and how they're handling it gets a lot harder. So it's understandable. It's just tricky. C.W. Bullard in South Carolina, who's a loyal listener to the podcast, said that the state gave everybody a deadline, which was actually last Sunday, to register for virtual school, but not all the districts had their return plans approved. So you weren't even choosing between anything. You just had to say whether you want to remote or not. You don't even know what the other option was or if it made sense for you. So there's just tons and tons and tons of uncertainty, and not just for parents and kids, also for the teachers.
Well, yes. And I mean, for instance, and we're in the same situation because the schools have to get their plans approved and they're working on them. There's like, for instance, just one thing, a push here in New York for like outdoor schooling, which I guess has happened in the past for, I believe, the tuberculosis outbreak, where they set up outdoor schools because, to lower transmission, etc., which we know one thing about COVID, which is it is harder to get outside. And so I think that's such a great and inspired idea. And one of the parents brought it up on our call. And it's just the principal is like, I like that idea. If we get to that place, because again, she doesn't even know what's happening, we would have to figure it out. Like, who's putting up the tents and the tables and the setups and the breakdown every day? And what about the ordinances to close off the streets to be able to do that? And so, like, once you start thinking, I mean, right now, school districts, understandably, are trying to make you feel better and being like, well, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. Whether it's the social distancing or the wearing the mask or, not sharing materials, that's easy to say. But for me, then when you start thinking about the logistics, it's so damn hard, not only for the teachers to do, but as a parent, I actually got a DM from a teacher that just struck me really hard because I was just asking people generically on, my Instagram feed about whether or not they wanted to send their kids or keep remote. And she's just like, I do, and everyone wants this, but like, she painted this picture of like, but the kids can't touch things and, they won't be together and it's not going to be social. And the things you picture, even just recess are not going to be the same. And to really think about what all of these protocols mean, that just kind of broke my heart, especially having like a 4-year-old who's entering pre-K, and just being like, but that's so the core of early learning.
So it's funny because I got a message. I've got a bunch of messages from teachers, one of whom said, 6 is a perfect number, said, as a teacher, I'm concerned for my health, which nobody seems to be talking about. I have an older brother who's a teacher. We've spoken to him. He's in Connecticut. And I think we are aware that, it's not just kids and parents who are concerned here. It's teachers as well. And we know that, older people, or at least adults, seem to be the ones more at risk than kids, although kids can certainly bring the disease home, the virus home, and spread it around. With somebody like you who's high risk, we're certainly aware of that. And Downtime Dads, who has he's a gamer dad who has a podcast called Downtime Dads. If you want to check that out, if you're a gamer, he says, I understand your frustration. Just know us teachers are just as frustrated as you are. And I think what it boils down, everybody is unbelievably frustrated by the situation, and we're not blaming each other. If we're blaming anybody, it's the current administration and the Chinese people who invented the virus. I'm sorry, wait, Bill Gates invented the virus. So obviously we're frustrated with him, but when are you not? Because Windows is a huge pain in the ass. I'm kidding. Obviously, no one invented the virus. It's not a hoax like climate change is.
Oh, right. Well, being mad at the virus is, completely pointless waste of time. But it's here, and so everyone's dealing with the reality. And the teachers, I definitely think about the teachers. Honestly, I believe there's 72 teachers within the New York school system, teachers and administrators who passed away of COVID, and Yikes. Who knows, one at our school. And this is a reality. And I mean, every teacher is so different and everything, but like, for instance, and just different ages, right? Impact, like you just said, about how adults get it easier. And
there are some older teachers that have been doing it for a really long time, over 60, which is supposedly the scariest age group to be in. One of the reasons that my parents have been quarantining so much is because they're in their 80s. Yeah. And senior citizens are at higher risk.
Same for me. And just the at-risk teachers, which honestly, now they're suspecting it might be the newest immune disease. Well, as someone who has one, like, I feel like half the fucking population, autoimmune disease, sorry. Yeah, I wish I was immune. That would be much better. Autoimmune disease, so many people have that. And, for these teachers to have to make these choices, so many want to go back to school. They're desperate to, and they need the money,
Yeah. Well, having to work, is another wrinkle. So Kasja_W, KASJA_W said, I'm a teacher, so I have to go back to work. She's like, but we might homeschool the kids, which is just what an impossible situation that is, right? So she doesn't feel safe sending her kids to school, but she can't not go because it's her job, right? So we are lucky in that I'm able to, for the time being, and for an extended period of time, I have been able to do my job from home remotely. Obviously, it's not ideal with the kids around, with you around.
Yeah, I would say, would you say you're lucky?
No.
Being at home all the time.
I feel very unlucky sometimes, believe me, when the kids are crawling all over me. And they feel, actually, they're the ones who are lucky because they get so much goddamn screen time, especially this summer, just so I can get my work done. But it's a luxury and it's privilege, right? It's a privilege absolutely. That I have to be able to continue to make an income and to have you at home so that you can, take care of the kids in a way that I can't when I'm working. I wrote about...
Now it's summer, so we get a bit of a reprieve, but we have the luxury of being home to be terrible teachers to our children.
Oh my gosh. Well, see, that's the other challenge, math. Right?
The kid's screwed on math if I'm teaching it. Or you, honestly.
So in a perfect world, COVID is gone and the kids are going back to school. But this world doesn't exist, right? So Manders 314 says, here's the deal. Every option that isn't back to the old way without COVID, every one of those options sucks in one way or another. There's no perfect scenario or option that's going to serve everybody. It sucks for everyone: administrators, teachers, support staff, students, parents, everyone. And that is 100% the case, right? Our kids, our 9-year-old who's supposed to be going back to 5th grade, he's a rising 5th grader. I hate that term, but he's a rising 5th grader. He misses his friends. He has a birthday at the beginning of the year that, he's not really, we're not going to be able to have one of your elaborate backyard birthday parties where you create treasure maps and scavenger hunts and all that kind of stuff.
And he's, by the way, not saying all moms do this. I get a little crazy about birthdays.
A little crazy.
No pressure.
You do not want to be in this house for the week plus leading up to a birthday party.
I do love birthdays, and that's the time to shine. But this poor kid, our son, the 9-year-old, first of all, basically COVID was announced, and he's like, do you think it'll be gone by my birthday? Like, he hit for months. And I think the other day, he finally kind of realized, now that it's a month away, it's not going to be the usual thing. And I really hope that we can do some sort of, we'll do something, obviously, but it won't be the same. And I don't even think that it's not, that it's not him having a big party, like
that's
last
not what
night.
You're going to start crying now?
Yeah, I'm going to start crying. Because you don't even know this yet. But last night I was tucking him in and just being like, hey, are you okay? Because he seemed kind of off. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, except for when I'm angry. And I'm like, what are you angry at? He's like, I'm angry about COVID. I'm angry I can't see my friends. And the fact this kid just like is thinking about that in the back of his mind all the time. Yeah, this person, they're right. It sucks. It really fucking sucks for the kids and for the adults. And I'm going to stop talking and regain myself.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, obviously it sucks. And then, so I got a comment from Maggie Parker 13 who said, she just said succinctly, she said, send them back. It's mentally unhealthy to keep kids isolated like this. And yes, it's not mentally good for these
obviously.
Kids. As you're seeing, it's not good for the kids. It's not good for my wife who's crying about it. They're not having a good time, but it's potentially physically unhealthy for the kids.
There is no parents, good option. It's like, which shitty option do you want to choose? And I do 1,000,000% think about the socialization. I think currently, if anything, we are trying to lean towards doing part-time remote because, especially with the oldest one, because he needs it. And I know he does. And he has ADHD, as you guys have talked about on the podcast before, I believe. It's hard to have all that energy pent up and not be able to have that. And I mean, he's been so close with his teachers the last couple of years, and he's gained so much emotionally, not to mention he was doing really well in school, and he still is, but it definitely fell off when it became our job. And, I think we've talked about this a little bit, MJ, that like you have a thought process about how everyone will be even. Right? Like everyone's falling behind together.
Everybody, for the most part, is dealing, certainly within our school district, right? So, the year could end up being a wash, and our 4-year-old who's supposed to start, real preschool in September, which I don't know how you teach preschool virtually when it's all about kind of socialization and learning through play and that kind of stuff. But at least, he'll be in the same boat as everybody else in his age group. And so will most of the kids across the country who aren't getting the same kind of education they're normally getting. The year is sort of maybe going to be, a write-off, or at least people will understand the mitigating circumstances of the pandemic and all these less than ideal, solutions that we're trying to deal with.
I think right now, and probably throughout their school career, at least their elementary and high school career, that will be true. But it doesn't matter. They're all being dropped in the same pot come college, assuming things are much better. Oh my God, holy shit, I hope so. But hey, it's not the whole world, and it's definitely our country. I don't know if you got any comments about this, but, I have heard people kind of push back when it becomes a conversation piece, whether with us or just in general, about like other countries are doing it, right? You hear it on the news too. Other countries went back to school. They are fine. And I will definitely say that the one big caveat that's being left out in that discussion is they controlled the virus first. Yeah. They don't have places that have a 20% rate of infection. I mean, 20% of an area and then sending them back to school. We've seen the worst in New York, honestly. I mean, it was horrible. I was sick, as you know, with COVID.
Wait, you were sick?
Yeah, for that month I laid in my bed in pain and lost 15 pounds.
That was it. That was it. That I was able to catch up on all my Netflix shows without having a big debate about what we're going to watch. It was fucking bliss.
I'm really glad that worked out for you.
You lost some weight.
Die for your, enjoyment. But I'm very lucky. But I don't want, obviously, anyone else to experience it. And I'm way the lucky one. And, because so I just feel like we have to be smart and let science back the decisions, even though I definitely want it to be able to happen. The school going back and some normalcy.
Well, I think the Trump administration had it right when they said, let's not let science stand in the way of kids going back to school, because what hasn't this administration gotten correct?
Well, I think that's the week, this is not political, but the week that I got sick, I believe it was said there's 4 people that have it, and by the end of the week there'll be none. And I'm like, well, hi, raise my hand. I got it.
Yeah, but to their credit, I did give you a couple of glasses of Clorox, which is what knocked it out and what saved you. The drinking of the bleach. You're welcome.
Just trying to extend my quarantine so you could watch Outlander or some shit.
Yeah, Outlander. I don't watch Don't lander me.
It sounds like some obscure show that you'd watch. I don't know what it is.
Dark on Netflix. Okay, get it right. Anyway, so it's funny because JAHP.5 said he lives in South Central Nebraska, and their school is not requiring masks nor offering remote learning. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the levels are like there. There's obviously a lot fewer people in Nebraska than there are in the New York City area. But if you're at all concerned, you have no options there. No one's wearing masks. You don't have to wear a mask. You can't remote from home. So what are you going to do unless you do just pull your kids out and decide to do full-fledged homeschooling, which, no thank you from my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just hard for a lot of people. Who knows if that person can't do it, and it's not an option like we talked about. And I heard something similar from someone, a follower in Tennessee, about them going back, no mask required, etc. I will say, there have definitely been studies and experiences that show masks really help. My kids hate a mask, and it breaks my heart to have to see my 4-year-old in a mask to go to the beach, and then us have to sit 15 feet away from anyone. But, I mean, if it works.
Somebody needs to create a mask muzzle hybrid so that they not only are they protected from the coronavirus, they can't speak. That is really the ideal situation for parents like me.
And I will just say about the masks, I can't even imagine our 9-year-old, right? He really hates wearing them. And I've bought 50 different ones, wearing them all day. And again, it's no perfect situation at all, but we just got to roll with what we got, I guess.
So it's interesting that because we keep talking about the challenges and the kids don't like masks and the toddlers aren't going to be able to socially distance because you can't trust. I think what did somebody say, that you just can't trust a 3-year-old, which is 100% true. It was Ruby_Padilla 81 says she lives in the Bay Area in California. She has a 3-year-old preschooler, and he's pulled out of school because he can't trust preschoolers. But Rhiannon in Portland, Oregon, who says she's concerned. She's like, how is my kid going to sit at a desk all day and not get in constant trouble for, breaking social guideline, social distancing rules, or just wanting to interact with his friends? And then the flip side of that is, how are you going to deal with your kids when they come home and they've spent like no energy? And we know from experience, when our kids don't get to expend energy, by the time bedtime comes around or dinner time, they are just bouncing off the walls. And that's left for the parents to deal with.
Oh, for sure.
And if your kid is forced to sit at a desk all day, doesn't have normal recess, doesn't have a chance to kind of get his yayas out the way that school often allows you to do, at least somewhat, they're just going to be nightmares to deal with, even more than usual. And she says that she's a terrible teacher, and when she has to teach her kids at home, she's basically just teaching them how to yell professionally, which my kids I think are going to be. My kids are
you have a doctorate in that, don't you?
They're learning from the best. Let's be honest about it.
Well, the good news is that, I was at least able to take over. And I was really proud of our 9-year-old for being able to fairly well, for someone that, has issues with focus and stuff, to really get through the day. But is he getting the same amount of stuff? Absolutely not. And as for controlling a 3-year-old or even a 4-year-old, when I do take them places, and we're very conscious of the places we go and like low traffic and whatever, but he's still like, I don't know, maybe I should just lick this mailbox on my way. Like it doesn't make any fucking sense. And I'm like, will you stop touching everything?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. He also eats basically everything with his hands. He'll eat soup with his hands. He's just like, what are you doing, buddy? There's a reason spoons were invented. Alba BYC is in Colorado, and she says her concern is how they're going to manage a stubborn, short attention span 8-year-old. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. And a 5-year-old. And how do you keep them interested in the online curriculum? So like you said, Detective Munch did a pretty good job of kind of staying on point. But even if your kids are old enough that they can focus and actually follow the school's itinerary, you still got to stay on top of them a little bit and stay involved and make sure they're doing their homework and they're doing their assignments, because our kid, every chance he gets, will be hopping on his Prodigy math game, because it's the educational game that we let him play a little bit more often, and it's very easy to get distracted. I have a hard time on conference calls from work. If I have my phone and I'm multitasking, doing something else for work, I'm missing what we're talking about in a meeting, and it's just the nature of this kind of interaction. It just doesn't hold your attention as well, and for kids, especially an ADHD kid or just younger kids, it's just there's really no way to control them.
Right.
And they're just not. They're getting a diluted version of education, no matter how you slice it.
And actually, this is just making me think on the fly of this. One, I think he does need, in-person instruction within a school with teachers that interact. I mean, we go to a great school that has multiple teachers in a room, and it's very hands-on. They build amazing relationships. But a couple teachers pointed out to me, like, we're not teachers anymore. We're policemen. We're going to have to police making sure that these kids stay safe and they're not touching this and they're not doing that. And we're not, and what an extra stress talking about how amazing teachers are, but that's not their fucking job. And we don't want that to be their job.
They already do. They already go above and beyond, and they already do so much more for so little, right? Obviously, teachers don't get a lot of respect in this country. They don't get enough money. The military is loaded with a budget, right? And the cops are basically, military men walking around fully funded with all this gear. Meanwhile, teachers are buying their own supplies. It's very frustrating. And now they're being forced with, taking care of our kids even more than they normally do, which they've already done. But now they really need to be aware of and cognizant of all these extra rules and trying to keep kids separated. And the mental stress on the teachers, and especially the ones who have kids of their own, at home, they're just dealing with so much all the time.
And then, of course,
I don't envy them.
It's like going in, the people who know what it should be like Munch, going in with so many high expectations and seeing the realities, I think is going to be really hard on him. And if we thought it was tough parenting him before, because, you know, it all has challenges for everyone. He's been at a challenging age. It's going to be a fucking nightmare, so you better stock up on beer because it ain't going to go great.
So K-Loft 627 says, many people also talk about the social and emotional well-being of their kids. What they don't realize is that their kids will not be going back to a normal school day. So she's a teacher, and you got a message like this yourself from another teacher. She said, it's going to be classrooms with desks spread far apart, no group work, students can't socialize, no lunch in the cafeteria, right? They'll be eating at their desks, which I guess means we have to pack lunches every day, which...
No, actually... I saw that they can do grab and go sandwiches.
Okay, that's good. Like at a gas
station. He doesn't eat any of it anyway. What do we care?
Gas station sandwiches. But she goes on. K-Loft 627 goes on to say, she says, I don't see how this model could improve their social and emotional well-being. If anything, it's going to hurt them more, especially when teachers or students get sick or when they're hurt and they want a hug or something like that, which is some of the stuff that kids rely on, right? So, like you said, our son has an expectation for what his school is like, and he's going to be going back and immediately being told, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And it's going to be kind of a rude awakening, I think, because he's really excited to go back and see his friends. And if we do end up doing that, he's going to learn really quickly that it's not the way it used to be. And it's not going to be, he didn't like school. Let's be honest. It's not for the 6 months he's been at home. He wouldn't be clamoring to go back.
But he was very whiny. He was really tough on a Monday, but he comes by it honestly because don't even fucking talk to me on Monday. I hate Mondays.
Is that honestly?
That being said, huh?
That's because, well, look, in your defense, you've had several martinis on Sunday night, which makes Mondays even worse for you.
It's not true. I usually only have one martini on Sunday night because I'm bracing. But regardless of that, what I hope happens, because of course I think a lot of parents, especially the ones choosing remote automatically, that's what they picture. I have heard from people who have been like, hey, but I sent my kid to this outdoor dance class, although I think outdoor is a big part of it that makes it successful. And just the way she lit up by the human engagement. And I will say, as you know, MJ, like, especially now, even us, me anyway, used to look forward to the morning meeting sometimes because the teachers and things, all the kids would get to interact and it was like the highlight of their day and you could see it when school was in session. And now that it's been summer break, Munch is missing his friends so hard and it's hard to pin people down. I know in some suburbs, people are having sort of pods of friends and those kids are getting together, et cetera, whatever. Yeah. But in New York, people fucking got the hell out of this town. Most kids we know left because the parents are working remote anyway, and if they had an option, they did, just because they don't want a kid trapped in their apartment. We have a pretty good size place to live in a little yard, but it is, and I wrote about this the other day, and I think a lot of people feel this way about their house right now. It's just a little claustrophobic. And
this house is a prison.
No, it is. On Planet Bullshit. Is that right?
Hey, look at you. I'm proud of you.
Did it. I did a movie quote with Mike. But, the other day we worked up this watch party, these Netflix watch party or whatever it was.
Yeah, it only took 2 hours. It only took 2 hours to get set up for that.
Yeah, just to set up. But you know what? Half the time they ate snacks and watched the movie silently by themselves. But he was so damn happy, right? Like, he was with his friend and he just, we've been trying to cut back screen time, but if any of his friends happen to be on something, I'm like, go, because it's so hard to pin people down in summer in general. And I do think it's so important. So my hope is for anyone out there who's having this hybrid and gives it a chance, that A, it's safer than we hope, and B, that it does give these kids some semblance of sanity, because let's be honest, this is fucking with them. It's fucking with me. It's got to be fucking with them.
Yeah, it's definitely, right? Their brains are mush, right? They're nowhere near fully formed, and they're just struggling left and right. and we don't even really know what the impact is going to be, right? We already knew our kids were going to be in therapy later because I'm their dad.
Oh my God! You stole the words out of my mouth. Like maybe, just maybe, they'll be in therapy over this instead of us.
Yes, well, they'll be over both things, but
Yeah,
the stigma for therapy will probably be even less than it is now. Mental health is going to be. I mean, look, in 20 years, you know what? We should tell our kids to start majoring in psychology now so that they can rake it in, because they're going to be, if they're therapists later in life, they are all set. What's crazy, though, so you mentioned that we don't live in the suburbs, and we don't even go to a school in our neighborhood, really, right? We have to bring our kids. We're not into the school that we're
kind of in a
regionally school. Zoned in. Suburbs, you go to the school, unless you go to a private school, you go to the school in your area. So odds are the people on your street or in your cul-de-sac or whatever are people that go to the same school, and you can make those little pods and stuff. Yeah. Not really practical for us to do.
I think, right now, I mean it as play pods, but I think you mean is like this is becoming a trend I heard about, but is not really happening in New York, about kids, families choosing remote learning and creating pods of kids. So they play together, They socialize, they learn together. A lot of them are either like taking turns teaching or hiring. If you have the privilege and opportunity to do that and the money, right? Like It sounds like a good option. I know there's also a lot of blowback about, I mean, we don't hear about it happening in New York, but so many people, not just in New York, but everywhere, that's not even close to an option. The parents are essential workers. They're struggling. They're below the poverty line. They just, and like, they just need their kids to learn. And, that's a privilege. I'm not saying.
My Peanut Adventures lives in a Boston suburb, and she says there's so much talk there about forming pods and micro schooling and that kind of thing. And she is trying not to get sucked into the frenzy because there's so much speculation. They don't even really know the schools don't even announce their plans until August 10th, right? So they're just monitoring things, and they're thinking doing a hybrid for 1 to 2 months and then revisiting. Somebody in Atlanta mentioned that they are going to send their kids back. Tara Lee Hill in Atlanta said they're doing full remote for the first 4 weeks and then revisiting. So, like, this isn't going away anytime soon, right? Everybody is going to keep monitoring the situation. We're all going to be monitoring numbers. We don't know. They could announce a plan in New York that we're going back to school doing the hybrid thing, and then a week or the day before school starts, there might be a spike, or there might be something that happens that makes them say, no, we're just going to do full remote. Nobody knows. And like you mentioned, there are essential workers who they have no choice. And if they get stuck in a full remote scenario, what are they going to do?
Quick shout out, by the way, like, woohoo, for essential workers, like all the essential workers, the healthcare workers, the people that keep me stocked in wine, the people who, the grocery store, like, huh? Yes, they are essential workers. It was deemed an essential business in New York.
The liquor stores.
Thank you, New York. Because let me tell you, it has been. But everyone who has to do that or does do that, I mean, here's the thing. Like, we're all going through these hypotheticals, and I know this is one of your things, Mike, is like, it might not even happen, and you're like, why worry about it?
Yeah.
I have anxiety, and I'm me, so that's not going to happen. But it's very possible that the day before, because we don't even have a start date in New York.
No.
If we just start, I assume we'll start something. But
Starry High HYE said it's an impossible choice. She said her county in Georgia gave parents a choice between virtual or face-to-face, but then they scratched that and said, sorry, no, all virtual, right? So, like, these things are just very fluid and changing. And she was convinced she was going to send them in knowing it would only last so long, but they missed their friends so much she wanted to give it a shot. But she was like, odds are somebody's going to get sick and it's going to get shut down anyway. Yeah. So whether it's a mandate before school starts or whether it's something like what's happening in Major League Baseball, where they started their shortened season, the Marlins got sick, now the Cardinals are sick, right? So
oh my God, another team.
Best laid plans, right? So, like, who knows what the situation is going to be a week in, a month in, who knows?
And that's just been this disease in general. I mean, it fucking sucks. There's no other words for it. I know a lot of people from California are like, we're just all remote. But there were literally articles written about how California didn't, suffer the fate New York did and how they did things right, And now here we are like 4 or 5 months later, and they're in a huge, outbreak. And the kids there are no options on school. And more importantly, we want everyone to be safe. And it's also hard to know. This disease is just so new, right? So I think people struggle with like knowing.
We don't even know if you who had it, if you are now immune, right? And you've heard rumors that even if you had antibodies, they only last 8 weeks or something like that, so you could potentially get it again.
And I actually tested negative for antibodies, but my doctor also said you are on immunosuppressants, meaning it's entirely possible that you wouldn't get them, right? Because those immunosuppressants like to just take that immunity just right away immediately.
Good news. It's good. It's good.
I mean, I get, as you know, MJ, if the kid comes home with like a sniffle, I'm sicker than him by the end of the day. Like I catch all of the things, and I am not, I'm not special in that. Like there's tons of people like this.
I mean, you're pretty special.
Aw.
You're welcome.
I'm really emotional. I might tear up.
You catch everything except the break. Fuck it. God, I
don't know what that means.
I'm on fire.
But MJ apparently has the immunity of a bull.
Wow. Of a bull? Strong like bull.
You never get anything, but when you get literally anything, so much as an earache or a headache, oh my God, I'm dying.
This is unbelievable. I'm not going to sit here and listen to this bullshit. You're good at being sick. Congratulations. You learned to live with it.
You know what? I think I would rather get COVID again myself than you get it, because Jesus Christ, what a nightmare that would be.
Oh my God. You know what? We did an episode, I think, on this. We might have to revisit it and have you on for that one, just so you can yell.
You have to refresh some of your subjects with my input, because I'm sure I have opinions.
Well, as the listeners of this episode know, you have plenty of opinions, and you have no compunction against dropping an F-bomb. I loved it when you said
my apologies, but not really.
You said COVID fucking sucks. There's no other words for it. And I'm pretty sure there's lots of other words besides fucking sucks. But you are a poet.
I have a poll after this podcast goes live, because it's perhaps the best terminology. Just get to the point. Keep it simple, people.
Yeah, as you said last week, your dad would really appreciate it, rather than you try to pretend you're not saying the F word. Just get out with it and just say it.
If you're going to say it, just fucking say it. That's right.
He really knows how to raise a lady. He's good. He had 4 of them.
Hey, you like it.
Don't push your luck. All right. So this was our second shot at recording this podcast. I hope this recording works. If not, you won't even hear this.
Yes, seriously, I'm out.
But obviously, this is a serious topic. This is a serious time for serious people. And Bob Rumson, your 15 minutes are up. My name is Andrew Shepard, and I am the president.
Does literally anyone know what you're quoting when you start just being utterly bizarre on audio?
The best is when Pete is on, and he's seen 3 movies in his entire life.
Yeah, right.
Almost 90% of the time, he has no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, hopefully, people did understand, if not my references, kind of where we're coming from and our concerns and everybody else's concerns. We are concerned for the teachers. We are concerned for the parents. And obviously, I think we're mostly concerned for the kids. I do think I had $1 million idea for mask/muzzle hybrids to keep their mouths shut and to keep them safe from the virus. It's 2 birds. I'm a genius.
Well, thank you for having me on. I feel for everyone out there making these decisions. There's no easy one. I don't think there's a right or wrong one. It's what's right for your family.
Should I sing "No Easy Way Out" from Rocky IV to wrap it up?
No, I think we've done enough. I mean, do you know what the problem is here?
There's no shortcuts home.
God. This is painful. Listen, Pete is actually lucky in his complete lack of pop culture knowledge, because unfortunately, I know every single one of these references is the soundtrack of my life.
And you can change. Everybody can change.
Oh my God. I'm done here. Bye.
We'll see you guys next week, with or without Pete. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I don't know why you would still be watching this isn't a Marvel movie, no matter how much I look like Paul Rudd, which you can deny it all you want. It's there in the eyes, I think. I'm young looking like him. If you enjoyed the podcast, which you obviously did or you wouldn't be listening still, sign up on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you want to listen to. Comment here on YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button. We want to hear from you. Comments, questions, dirty jokes, money, all the money you can give us. We'd love it all. Catch you next time.